Welcome to another edition of Legal Access. We get together each and every Thursday morning at this time to give you access to different aspects of the law. Today we're going to talk about personal injury. Now, personal injury envelops a lot of different things. Car accidents, if you had a slip and fall accident, trip and fall accident, if you've been hurt at work, any of those things, please feel free to give us a call. The number's on your screen, 843-848-8080. We'll answer all those questions for you here today. On our panel to answer the questions, all from the Maguire Law Firm, is Ian Maguire.
Good to see you, Dave.
Also Brittany Jones.
Hey, Dave.
And Mike Smith.
Good morning, Dave.
And they'll be here to answer your questions, but if you have any questions in general you'd like to have answered for yourself, you can stop by the office at the corner of 16th Avenue North and Oak Street and get yourself a copy of the Ian Maguire book, Common Mistakes Made by Accident Victims in South Carolina. It's absolutely free. Just stop by the office and ask the front office for your copy and then walk away. But if you have any other questions you want to have answered, today is the day to go ahead and do it. Again, the number's on your screen.
Yep. And you know, this is what we do. It's a personal injury, and like you said, Dave, there's quite a gamut of different issues that come up in personal injury cases. I always like to start by asking Mike, because Mike, who's been such a great value and a great partner for us, but he's been with us since the beginning of this year, but he spent decades doing work for the other side, for the insurance company side. And so how do you find it working for plaintiffs, Mike, and what do you find interesting that you learned from being on this side of the aisle?
The other side.
Yeah, the other side, the white hat side this time, instead of the evil empire side.
I let you say that, not me.
Yeah, I can say that. I've worked there. I used to have a late law partner that asked me, he says, Mike, you're such a nice guy. How can you have such evil in your heart by representing that evil empire? So anyway, the thing that I've noticed, Ian, and we've talked about this on the show before, is just the gratitude that you have with your clients when you're able to help them out of a tough situation. Because generally you get in a motor vehicle accident or a personal injury, you know, slip and fall, trip and fall, and it changes your life. It changes not only your life, but it changes the life of your family members. Yep. You know, now they're doing extra around the house, and you may take little things for granted that your partner does or your parents do, but man, when you get injured and you're out because of a back problem or a shoulder problem and you can't do those activities of daily living, which is what the industry calls it, it is tough on the family members. Yeah. And just seeing how affected they can be by the injuries and how much you can help them by getting their cases resolved, whether it be through negotiations early on, which Brittany is so good at, or sometimes they hit snags and turn them over to us on the litigation side. And
when you what you mean by that is then we can't get it resolved, we file a lawsuit, and then it turns into a litigation.
So it's fun to watch that aspect of it. Now, from the defense side, I never got involved until there was a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So, you know, typically the carriers already got their heels dug in as to where they want to go, and they don't want to do anything else, and it's battle, 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 fight, fight, fight every step of the way.
Yeah, I will say the important thing when you're picking an attorney, especially if the injury is serious, is look for a firm that, and there's a number of excellent firms in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, that will take your case to trial. And people say, well, I don't want to go to trial, and we say, yeah, that's true, but if you don't have attorneys that are actually willing to prepare the case for trial, and the insurance company knows that the lawyers are going to take the case to trial. If they're not reasonable, you're not going to get a fair, reasonable, and you're not going to optimize your settlement amount. So it's extremely important when you're sitting down in a serious case and talking to attorneys. And I always say, talk to 2 or 3 before you hire somebody. Make sure you're really comfortable. But you want attorneys that are going to be able to take the case to court, because, Mike, you've been on the other side of it.
Right.
And the insurance company knows when the plaintiff's attorney is going to avoid trial, you're just going to tell them what they're going to get paid. The insurance company is going to say what they're going to get paid, as opposed to having it dictated by
Right.
the lawyers on the plaintiff's side.
And the adjusters that deal in this area on a regular basis know the attorneys that will take a case to trial. And behind the scenes, I could see that certain lawyers were treated certain ways because of the respect that the carriers had for that very purpose. And that's one of the things that, honestly, in today's age of litigation, we do so many mediations
Sure.
and so few cases go to trial. Years before the mediation process got underway in a mandatory fashion, where the Supreme Court was saying you have to mediate all the cases, a mediation would be, well, I'm not going to tell you what I want because I'm afraid that when we get on the courthouse steps, you're not going to get it to me, or
Yeah.
I don't want to settle short. And we ended up trying a lot of cases. I would try 20, 30 cases a year.
Yeah.
And now you're lucky if you tried 2 or 3.
Yep.
So,
But it's still that threat that
it's the threat.
makes all
It's
the difference.
Knowing somebody will take a case to trial means a lot to a carrier, because if not, it's like you said before, they dictate the settlement parameters instead of you. So it's always good to do that. I hate it for the younger generation of lawyers that are out there that they don't get that opportunity to walk into a courtroom and try the case. It's one of the most fun things we can do as an attorney is to try a case. Now, I will tell you that the only ones having fun in the courthouse are the trial lawyers.
Yeah, yeah.
Typically.
It's hard work for everybody else, and it's pressure on the clients and the people that are actually involved. But it's like anything you do in life, you can't get better until you do it.
Right.
You get better by making mistakes. And unfortunately, the way things are set up now, as you mentioned, it's much more difficult to get lawyers' experience because there's so few trials where they would just, in fact, the older partners, the cases that they want to deal with, they'd make you go do it. And so you have to try some really challenging cases, to say the least. But once you do that, it hardens you as far as and gives you some background and confidence going forward when you actually have a case that's more winnable, I guess is a good way of putting it, right?
And I think that's definitely one thing that sets our firm apart from others in the area, is that we are willing to go to trial and prepare every case as if we are. And in addition to that, I think Mike mentioned it early on, that no one's coming to see us because they've had a great day, right? And I think that another thing that really sets us apart is just our willingness, to take time with each client and to understand that these are people first and a file number second, right. And that's something that's a different experience maybe than you might get with a much larger firm that's dealing in higher quantity, I'll say. So just a couple of the things that set us apart.
Yeah, and I will say it's a relationship,
Yeah.
and what might be great for one person wouldn't be for another, and that's why there's nothing wrong with speaking to a couple of law firms
Sure.
and seeing who you're comfortable with and
Right.
seeing what works for you, and do your research. Look into the law firms. You really can do that now. You can get a lot of information by just getting online and looking.
And it is a free consultation,
Yep.
to come in and sit down with us and talk to us and see if you do have a case.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and run to break right now. When we get back, we would love to take your phone calls. The number's on your screen. Don't be shy. Give us a call here today as we're talking about personal injury. Again, automobile accidents, slip and fall, trip and fall accidents. If you've been hurt at work, any of that stuff, give us a call and we'll answer them here for you today on Legal Access, brought to you by the Maguire Law Firm.
Email.
Welcome back. It's Legal Access. We're talking about personal injury here today. Again, automobile accidents, slip and fall, trip and fall accidents. If you've been hurt on somebody else's property or maybe hurt at work, give us a call. The number's on your screen. We would love to get you on. Here to answer your questions, all from the Maguire Law Firm, is Ian Maguire, also Brittany Jones and Mike Smith, well equipped to answer all of your questions. Again, personal injury, our topic here today. Now, The number one case that a personal injury firm will get will be automobile accidents.
Right.
A lot of people think that they'll be able to take care of an automobile accident case themselves, and legally they can, but when does something rise to the level that you definitely need an attorney's help with?
No, I think that you would always benefit from having an attorney's help. If you've been in an accident and you have injuries, you're going to benefit from having an attorney on your side. The insurance company's got their attorneys, you know, they had Mike, and they've got a whole team of them, you know, just a phone call away. So, you know, you want to be equally prepared, and having an attorney of your own is the only way to do that. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and they're not going to offer up a bunch of information to you. They've got a job to do, and it's to protect the insurance company and to kind of minimize things on that side. It's not to look out for you. So I think that you would always benefit from having an attorney.
Yeah, I like
Something
that.
that
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Go.
Oh, thank you. One of the things that I noticed, Dave, in coming over to the Maguire Law Firm is that the offers that are typically made by the insurance carriers are extremely low, the initial offers. And, you know, we have cases where somebody's emergency room bill may be, and I'm pulling numbers out of the air, $10,000. The offer will be $6,000 or $7,000. And you're thinking, how in the world, you know, they don't even pay for my medical bills that I've incurred as a result of this accident. I wasn't at fault. Get an attorney and walk through the process with the attorney so that they can actually help you maximize the recovery. Because I do see, even when I was on the defense side and cases were being sent to me right after a complaint was filed, a lot of times I was on the phone to the adjuster saying, there's no way this case can settle with the little bit of money you've offered in this matter. And that was the rule, not the exception, in the last couple of years that I was practicing on the defense side. So I think getting the attorney, whether it's our firm or another plaintiff's firm in the area, is something that you absolutely need to do.
Yeah, because what that tells us is that there are people out there that are taking those lowball offers, so they wouldn't waste their time offering them. So, yeah, you know, knowledge is power, and you know, Brittany used the word minimize, which is what the insurance company is trying to do on all these claims. It's simply what their job is to minimize the results, and a lawyer's job is to optimize the results for their clients. So I thought Brittany said it well. If you know, the other side is going to have lawyers, and then you're not going to have that opportunity to have somebody, you know, behind you and fighting for you. You're at a disadvantage. So at the very least, sit down with an attorney, and you know, most attorneys that do this type of work are going to offer a free consultation. Take advantage of that. Sit down with them, and then see where you want to go from there. But I strongly advise that in any case where you have any type of significant injury.
One of the myths of personal injury is that I'll be getting about 3 times what my medical bills are. Where did that come from, and is that true? Or?
Well, I bet if Mike and I went back in time, which, you know, it's hard to even remember when I started. But back in the dark ages,
Before the turn of the century.
There was that. I mean, somebody would go to a chiropractor, for instance, and it was always, you know, I don't remember if it was 3 or 4 times the medical bills was sort of the standard. But remember, back then, cases would go to trial, so it was so common that they did have those parameters that were sort of in place for different kinds of cases. That is completely gone now. I mean,
Right.
on
It's like
both.
that threat was more present to the
yeah.
threat of trial.
So now I mean, sometimes cases are worth a lot more than 3 or 4 times the medicals. As far as I'm concerned, the medicals are for the doctors and the medical establishments, and you know, the pain and suffering, the loss of enjoyment of life, the future medical bills, all that is really what we are fighting for our clients. So and that's what I concentrate on. So, you know, 3 or 4 times might be very much an inadequate amount for a settlement. On other cases, however, you know, 3 to 4 times the amount on a I won't go into all the details of what makes a case, you know, maybe less valuable, but there are cases where 3 or 4 times the medicals might be the high end, you know, of a settlement, right?
Right, and in the 90s and the early 2000s, one carrier in particular had a program where they used a computer model,
Yep.
and they would follow this acronym. It was MIST, Minor Impact Soft Tissue Injury. And you would hardly ever see 2 times the meds. Most of the time it was, here's the meds and $1,000.
Yeah.
And that was the standard for a long time. And it was very difficult to break out of that. We're trying to get that gone, if you will, to more fairly compensate people now. But those days were the days that so many cases were getting tried. I know personally, I would line up 3 cases to try on a Monday and try them back to back to back.
Yeah.
That's unheard of these days.
Yeah,
Nobody does that.
and that insurance company, they would just dare
dare you to
people
go to
to
trial.
go to trial, and you know, I had plaintiff attorney colleagues that would be all angry about it. I said, look, the only way to fix this is to go to trial, be prepared, get good results, and that might change the way things are going. But if you just walk in with your notebook and think everything's going to work out, it's not. It takes preparation, and I think as a whole, the plaintiffs' bar eventually did a better job of preparation. I really do think that time period really helped plaintiffs and plaintiffs' firms step up and become better lawyers and prepare their cases for trial better as a whole, without doubt, from that.
I'll say, you still hear people mention this 3 times the meds, and clients will ask about it. But I can't tell you how many times we see, like Mike mentioned, that offers come in that are below the amount of the medical
Right.
bills, and they, the insurance adjuster saying things like, "Well, they charged you too much. They shouldn't have charged this much for the services that they provided." And what's the client to do, especially if they don't have an attorney? Say, well, I don't. When I was at the emergency room, I didn't ask how much that MRI was going to be, before they did it. So that puts them in a really difficult position. But it's something that we do see all the time.
Yeah, and that's just,
And it's a
in my
fallacy.
opinion, I think we all agree, terrible argument, and
Yeah.
and it really doesn't hold up very often, if ever. I've never had a trial where I felt like that argument worked for the other side,
Right.
because we have no control, and more importantly, the injured person has no control over the cost of medical care in our country. It's crazy.
And speaking of emergency rooms, I want to thank you guys for stepping up last week when I had a medical issue of my own. So I missed the show last week. I want to thank everybody for
I'm glad you're back so soon,
Yes.
and all in one piece, and everything's fine. But
all my bruises are almost gone too. So I knew I was on high def here today on WMBF News, so that makes me happy. Tell you what, we're going to take another little break here right now. When we come back, we still got plenty of time to get your phone calls on the air. If you have any questions about personal injury, today is the day to get those questions answered. Call us here today on Legal Access, brought to you by the Maguire Law Firm. Welcome back. It's Legal Access, brought to you by the Maguire Law Firm. Each and every Thursday at this time, we have a new time that obviously you're watching it now, so you know that, but we've switched. Instead of 12:30, we're here. Glad that you found us. Don't be shy about giving us a call. We still got a few minutes left. If you have any questions about personal injury, again, automobile accidents, slip and fall, trip and fall. If you've been hurt at work, any of that stuff, give us a call. It's fair game. Today we'll get those questions answered for you. And obviously the number one, as we mentioned, the number one case as far as personal injury is automobile accidents. And Brittany, one of your pet peeves, I know for a fact, is when somebody gets into an accident and says, "I don't want my insurance to go up, so don't contact my own insurance." Why is that a bad move?
It's a bad move because a lot of the times people have an optional coverage. It's called underinsurance. And it is optional in South Carolina. So if you have opted to have that, you've chosen to pay extra to have this coverage. And the reason why you have it is in South Carolina, our minimum limits are $25,000. So if your medical bills exceed $25,000, that's when your underinsurance kicks in and provides additional coverage for you. So if you are paying to have that extra coverage in place, then you don't use it, you are paying for nothing. So I think everyone should have this coverage for sure. And then when the time comes to use it, let us notify them. Also, a lot of people have med pay or medical payments coverage, or sometimes it gets called PIP or personal injury protection. And that is another coverage that you are paying to have. A lot of times it might be $1,000 or $5,000, something like that. But it's easy money to get. You don't have to prove fault. You submit the medical bills, and then they give you that benefit back. That benefit that, again, you're paying to have. So it is a little bit my pet peeve when people have that coverage available to them and don't want to use it. And the reason why they don't want to use it a lot of times is because they're worried that their premiums are going to go up just because they used it. And I don't know about you guys, but my premiums seem to go up all the time for no reason at all. And so, I'm not saying your premiums are never going to go up, but they should not go up just because you use your underinsurance in a situation where it's an accident and you are not found at fault. So always have the UIM and let us use that coverage, yeah.
As we've talked about going to the hospital, just about any time anybody goes to the hospital or a loved one, they're going to say, oh, the doctor should have done this, or they should have found that, or should have found this. So they want to sue for medical malpractice. Those cases are very tough to win. Why are medical malpractice cases so hard as far as personal injury goes?
Yeah, and we generally don't do medical malpractice mostly because we count on the doctors in our town, and they do a good job. But when you are in a situation where you need to hire an attorney for medical malpractice, usually you want to find a firm that's what they do. That's all they do. Yeah. It's a very different process in ways because you basically have to have an expert doctor usually that will say that there was a breach of the standard of care, and then you have to have it causally connected and related to the damages that occurred. They're very difficult cases and I think that's purposely done because so much of medical care is there's a lot of unknowns still, right? And there's a lot of risks that are out there that they have you sign something regarding risks, but it's still there. So but I always advise. We have people call us all the time about medical malpractice, and I always either send it out for them to a medical mal attorney or an expert, because people at least should get an answer when they're upset, and usually that's all they need is to feel better about the fact that, okay, this is a risk that was associated and it could happen, and there's not a case for that reason, or that even though things weren't done perfectly, it didn't breach the standard of care. So all of those, I don't know if you either want to.
It's a very expensive.
That's very expensive too.
Case too, because you have to pay for the experts, and you've got to have significant damages to make the model work, if you will.
So really, unless there's a wrongful death or extremely long-term serious injuries resulting from the malpractice, it may not be make sense monetarily to go forward with it. Yeah. So.
We've only got about a minute left here, guys. I was going to ask about, with holiday parties coming up, what kind of standard do you, if you have a holiday party gathering at your place?
Have a fund here, like what to do to make it safe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to make it fun. Yeah. They've got that covered.
I don't know. You want to talk about the party for 30 seconds?
Sure. Yeah. Don't serve alcohol to minors. Number one.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I think we're almost out of time.
And really make sure minors aren't drinking alcohol in your house, because even you can't say, well, I didn't serve it, they found it. No, if that happens, you're probably on the hook. So make sure that doesn't happen.
As we mentioned a couple of times, consultations are free for personal injury, so do not be afraid to pick up the phone and call and find out what about your situation. Also, speaking of free books are available at the Maguire Law Firm. 9 Common Mistakes Made by Accident Victims in South Carolina, absolutely free. 1600 North Oak Street, right at the corner of Oak Street and 16th Avenue North. Stop on by and get yours today. Family law coming up next week.
You may wish to consult a lawyer to obtain case-specific legal advice. Information regarding lawyers can be located online or by contacting the South Carolina Bar Lawyer Referral Service, toll-free at